You don't have to go to college.
In making a video about maybe my favorite band of all time, and in asking myself whether this has a point or is just a fanboy being excited, I remembered this quote from Lorne Michaels, the creator of Saturday Night Live. Lorne said, "Generally when people talk about the best cast, I think, well, that's when they were in high school, because in high school you have the least amount of power you're ever gonna have. Staying up with friends later on a Saturday is great, and people attach to a cast." I think of this quote because I was very much in high school when I got into Animal Collective, and it's fair to say I attached to them for reasons that go beyond the music itself. If you stumbled across this video, you may be thinking, cool, another white hipster dude who loves Animal Collective, big surprise. And you wouldn't be totally wrong, but in this video I hope to go beyond the positive ways the band affected me and talk about the healing power psychedelic art can have when it's properly grounded in reality. Now, back to that opening clip, which is like almost half of the very short song, College. Let's just watch that one more time.
You don't have to go to college.
Bandleader Avi Terre explained in an interview he wrote that line in part because 3 of the band members dropped out of college, and also as an antithesis, if you saw my dialectic video, you know how much I love seeing that word here, an antithesis to how the Beach Boys, a band Animal Collective has long been inspired by and excessively compared to a little bit, but about how the Beach Boys, they were kind of lame about telling people to have pride in their school, so he thought, okay, we'll do the opposite. And there's probably no doubt that this song inspired some people to drop out of college or to not go to college, but in no way does it tell people to do these things. Like a true antithesis, it doesn't provide the answer itself, but just critiques the thesis, the assumption that we have to go to college. I wanted to start the video here because I think it's a good example of the subtlety of the band's perspective. As small of a difference as it might seem, I can say that I don't think I would have taken a liking to this band in the same way if they were the type to more directly say, tune in and drop out and so on. Because frankly, it's insulting for someone to think they have the answer to everyone's problems and to dictate the solutions, whether they're an evangelical preacher or Timothy Leary. And this issue is specifically personal to me because, like a lot of people, I felt pressured to go to college, to continue on the conveyor belt. And I was made by my parents and other authorities to feel like any resistance to this standard process was going to doom me eternally. I didn't need someone to counterbalance my powerlessness by ordering me not to go to college. I needed help disconnecting from the demands of society around me so I could make my own decision. And I think in general, as artists make statements that help people through personal struggles, there's an inverse relationship between giving direct advice to unknown people about unknown, complicated problems and actually helping people. Let's take it for granted that music helps people. It structures experience, evokes emotion, and moves time forward by its own rules, letting people escape one reality for another, only to finally release them back at the end. At least that's how I experience music and other profound experiences, as an escape and a return, which I think is similar to how Animal Collective experiences things, which may partly explain why I connect with them. For example, let's look at the song Amanita, a song written 8 years later than that College song, after the band had gotten really famous. And I just want to give an epilepsy warning here for the clip I'm about to show, and future clips, to be honest, so just heads up if you're sensitive to flashing lights. If you don't speak Animal Collective, the lyrics are, what are you gonna do, go into the forest until I can't remember my name, I'm gonna come back and things will be different, I'm gonna bring back some stories and games. I actually had these lyrics slightly wrong in my head until I looked it up for this video, even though I've heard it many times. I didn't know they were saying, what are you gonna do at the start. I thought it was just, are we gonna go into the forest? like, are we gonna go into the forest? Which doesn't really make any sense now that I think about it, like rhythmically or sort of meaning wise. Anyway, they closed with this song at one of the shows I went to, and at a lot of their shows, I'm sure, since it's the last song on their 2012 album Centipede Hurts. It's a powerful set of lines to repeat in this continuously building way, and it's this insistence that life can be different and that experiences of personal growth, like a trip into the forest, can help. I'm not trying to skip over the earlier work, by the way, but I'm also very much not trying to make the definitive video about Animal Collective. If I was doing that, I'd have to go into details about, for instance, their first live album, Holland Again, when all I really want to say about that album is that one time I fell asleep on a beach listening to it, even though it's really not the kind of music you would think you fall asleep listening to, and I got a sunburn on my whole chest with just an outline of a headphone cord winding across my red belly. Still one of the worst sunburns I ever got, so thank you, Animal Collective. I just think it's a little silly to do like some objective encyclopedic video about a band in general, honestly, but in particular about a band that I obviously have a very subjective connection with. That subjective connection is what art is all about. It's what's important. I'm here to explain just one angle of the group, how they sort of helped me become more independent and happy. Strawberry Jam in 2007 and Merriweather Post Pavilion in 2009 were their breakout albums, and those were the ones I first got into when I was in high school. Like, I learned the song Fireworks on the piano and played it all the time because I didn't have to be good at piano to do that. I even had this weirdly intimate relationship to the song For Reverend Green on Strawberry Jam, which I just want to mention even though it's random because it has to do with the subjective appreciation and connection to art. The song was almost certainly referring to Brad Truo. Pardon my mispronunciation. But anyways, Brad was a manager and engineer who worked closely with the band, and he went by Reverend Green. But the name weirdly connected for me to the character Reverend Green in Cormac McCarthy's Blood Meridian, a book that I just happened to be reading at the same time that I got into Animal Collective, and it was a book that made me really like reading when I hated it previously. So it was a very weird connection for me. But anyways, that's not the point. The point is, it's also an amazing song that features extremely intense and demanding screaming vocals. I think I speak for many people when I say the first time I heard this, I felt that I was experiencing something very new to me that music could do. There are a lot of bands that have screaming, but how many of them couple that with lullaby-style falsetto immediately after? And I want to say one more thing about this song, and I know this is probably going to sound kind of stupid, but there's a line in this song that I just want to say it helped me as a little stupid teenager to learn something that most of us learn, from maybe other people or whatever. We don't necessarily need a song to teach it to us, or we just already know it. But definitely a lot of heterosexual boys, or at least mostly heterosexual boys, need to learn this lesson. It's this line. So that line, he'll only be your friend if he touches your breast. As a teenager, I heard that and was like, oh yeah, that is fucked up when people are like that. And am I like that sometimes? Do I just want to hook up with my friends who are girls? It just made me sort of reflect on how people need to respect friendship and not just see everyone who, they might be attracted to just through the lens of sex. That sort of social commentary is lacking in a lot of psychedelic music, in my opinion. Again, I'm not trying to make Animal Collective out to be like the iconic male feminist band or something. I'm just saying little lines like that are helpful, at least to me as a teenager, to raise my awareness. Truly psychedelic art shouldn't just make you trip out, but challenges your inertia in a lot of different ways and your unconscious biases. So like I said, I got into the band after Merriweather came out, like the rest of the normies, except then, I kind of listened to their entire back catalog, even Holland Again, as I mentioned. Generally with Animal Collective, the further back you go, the weirder and more experimental the band gets. For example, here's the band around the year 2000. And yes, the high frequency ringing was a part of the song, and a part of the whole album, actually. It's not my favorite part of the whole album, personally, but I get it, I get what they're doing. Expanding the frequency of your perception in a certain sense. The album's amazing, by the way. Both that and the year prior's Spirit They've Gone, Spirit They're Gone, Spirit They've Vanished. In the decade between those albums and Centipede Hurts, the group had become a global phenomenon, as I mentioned, and had refined their sound to the point where experimental was one of, but not the major descriptor of the music. They'd lost none of the energy, but they were shaping it in ways like we saw earlier in that song Amanita. By the fall of 2012, when Centipede Hurts came out, I was actually, ta-da, in college. I had made it through both the subjective struggles of feeling like I was just doing what I was supposed to, and the objective struggles of getting such bad grades my senior year of high school that the college that had already accepted me demanded I explain myself in a formal letter. So I was in, and like a sophomore or junior when Centipede Hurts came out. It's a bit blurry. But it was the first time I was a super fan awaiting a new album of theirs, and I still remember the first time I listened to it. All the way through, obviously. I think because this album came after the massively popular Merriweather Post Pavilion, it was kind of like a fork in the road where some people who had rocked out to the hit song My Girls on their favorite college radio station maybe got off the Animal Collective train, and other fans stayed on. The critical reception went from a B+ for Merriweather to a C for Centipede Hurts, which is a pretty big difference. And Centipede Hurts didn't peak as high on the US charts as Merriweather did. I'm just saying the US charts because that's where I live. It was still very much the same band and the same cool weirdness, but it was a bit grittier and harsher on Centipede Hurts. Instead of the often softer synthesizer sounds used on Merriweather, Centipede Hurts was recorded at a ranch in the Texas desert, and it comes through. I mean, listen to how the album starts. And compare that to how Merriweather 3 years earlier started. Bit of a difference, no? But what I love is, no matter the harshness or the softness or the weirdness, this band is catchy. I think in our hearts, all we really want is catchy music to dance to, honestly, or, to rock out to in our heads. So whether there's 50 effects pedals tied into each other or, it's just acoustic, it doesn't really matter. For example, that's a much older song, Winter's Love, and that's Avey Tare and Panda Bear if you're not already a huge fan and can identify them. I remember when I became enough of a fan to identify their voices from each other, which really isn't very hard. They both have amazing solo work as well that they have made throughout the years, and I think it says a lot about a band when two individual members are so talented that they can make albums on the side as good as Panda Bear's 2011 Tomboy and Avey Tare's 2010 Down There, both of which came out in between Merriweather and Centipede Hurts. Avey Tare's written the majority of the Animal Collective songs, I'm pretty sure, but Panda Bear has written a bunch of them, like this one, Newtown Burnout, one of the best ones on Centipede Hurts. Oh, how good is that? Centipede Hurts even showcased another band member's songwriting talent with the song Wide-Eyed by Deacon, who had sat out of the Merriweather album and tour. Hell yeah. At this point, you may be thinking, well, but what are these songs about? So far, we looked at college, which was about making life decisions for yourself instead of doing what society compels you to do. Amanita was about going on a sort of vision quest and coming back to your normal life enriched by the experience, or at least that's what it's about to me. And if we go back all the way to the 2005 album Feels, which is a fantastic one we haven't talked about yet, we'll see more music which is about love, like the legendary track The Purple Bottle. And another quick epilepsy warning here I really just have to mention. But okay, The Purple Bottle. I know it's such a simple thing, but that line, sometimes you're quiet and sometimes I'm quiet, and then sometimes you're talkative and sometimes you're not talkative, those lines were really helpful to me. You know, when you're growing up and experiencing love for the first time, you don't always have people you can talk to about it. And when you get that wonderful, thrilling experience, and these sorts of tiny details can start to matter a lot. You know, the interpersonal reactions can be magnified to a level of profound importance. You know, why are they not talkative? Why are they talkative? Blah, blah, blah. In my opinion, Animal Collective used to make more songs about love, like on Feels and the year before's Sungtongs, because in addition to College, which we talked about, Sungtongs had songs like Winter's Love and Good Lovin' Outside. I think it's fair to say the band got a little bit less romantic over recent years, but I'd be open to anyone arguing against that point. Like, for instance, Merryweather in 2009 had Summertime Clothes, a romantic song about just, wanting to go on a walk with someone you love. And we have, of course, My Girls on that album, their breakout hit. But arguably that song is sort of just about wanting to provide for loved ones without getting caught up in the rat race of society. In that way, it feels more like a person versus society song than a love song. But Bluish from the same album feels very romantic, with lines like, I'm getting lost in your curls, I'm drawing pictures on your skin so soft it twirls. Sorry, I don't want to sing it, it would feel weird. But Centipede Hurts, another few years later, just doesn't have the romantic vibes. I don't feel like digging into the band members' personal lives to try to connect these changes to their own relationship changes, to be honest. And I don't feel like doing this, less so because it feels disrespectful and more so because the band members are pretty private and it seems kind of hard to do, to figure out all the times they might have met someone or broke up or something. Who has time for that? It's a little parasocial. The interesting point is that the band's massive popularity seemed to fade as the songs got less romantic, as if people really needed that romantic side to get into the music. Maybe I'm wrong about this. Please feel free to leave your thoughts. We'll soon get into what the recent songs are more so about also. And now it's time we zoom forward past Centipede Hurts to the group's next solo album, Painting With, in 2016. By the time this album came out, not only had I graduated college, but believe it or not, I was in freaking graduate school. What was happening to me? I actually had a party when this album came out, and I don't often enough throw parties, but I had spent years painting while listening to my favorite band, and now they were coming out with an album called Painting With, so I had no choice. I had a painting party. I bought dozens of canvases and a bunch of acrylic paints, and I had a bunch of friends over, and we listened to the album maybe multiple times while we painted and got weird. It was really great. Not all my friends love Animal Collective as much as I do, but Painting With is a pretty hard album to dislike. If anything, it seems to me more likely that a picky Animal Collective fan would dislike the album rather than a non-picky non-fan. And that's just because the songs are structured noticeably different than usual. They're all shorter and punchier with less repetition and vamping. They just go in, get the job done, and finish the song. This album has a song that's under 2 minutes long. That's quite unusual for Animal Collective. Now that doesn't mean they stopped being weird. That's from Recycling, the last song on Painting With. One thing you may have observed is that the lyrics seem, if this is possible, even more difficult to distinguish on this album. It's interesting since Panda Bear has gone the opposite way in his solo projects, with his 2019 album Buoys featuring actually understandable vocals to such an extent that many other people notice that. On Painting With, Panda Bear and Avi Terra do a sort of back and forth ping pong type of vocal doubling effect on almost every song, and it makes the lyrics quite hard to hear in most states of mind. Here's another example of that from the album's opening track, which was also the single, Floridada. Like, I'm sure you caught a fair number of the words there, but who can hear them all? I guess you don't gotta catch them all. And I find that I'll go years enjoying Animal Collective songs and never feel like I need to know exactly what they're saying, because the vibe is there and I can make meaning from the fragments that stand out to me. It makes the lyrics into a sort of Rorschach test, where you can almost learn about yourself based on what jumps out to you, and I like that openness of interpretation, as I know the band does as well. I saw them play in December 2016 when they were touring for Painting With, and it was, as you may remember, shortly after a dystopian-level presidential election in America. I remember Avi Terra on stage at an intense moment in one of the songs, or in between songs or something, earnestly communicating to the audience that something about like, in these dark times, or I don't remember the exact quote, but I definitely remember the phrase dark times and him just acknowledging that we were in dark times. I don't think anyone wants bands to give commentary on elections, but it feels really nice for at least the dystopian shitfest of American politics to not be completely ignored. There's a fine line with escapism, you know? And I mention this because I think it again shows the subtlety of Animal Collective's psychedelia, which doesn't seek simply to escape the world, but to understand it, to feel it, and to grow within it. I don't need my favorite band to make some speech about how Hillary would have been better than Trump, or Sanders would have been better than Hillary, or anything, and I'm glad they aren't that explicit, but it is good to know that they feel the fucked up nature of current events like I do, and they're not afraid to talk about it. Speaking of growth and the importance of not ignoring current events, let's blast forward from 2016 to 2020, when they came out with Bridge to Quiet, a great EP. This came out in July of last year, and as everyone remembers, last summer was obviously when the protests in reaction to the police murder of George Floyd were taking place. People were out in the streets every day and night, fighting for justice and social progress, putting pressure on institutions and organizations across the country and across the world. When Animal Collective released Bridge to Quiet, they also put a lot of their back catalog online at the same time. In a letter to fans to announce the new EP and the new availability of the back catalog, the band made some other statements and announcements. They announced the following changes. First, they acknowledged that they had used a racist caricature on one of their album covers. The band said, quote, "The first is the cover art for our People EP. There is no way to excuse using a mammy on our artwork, and so we have decided to remove it. We understand now that using a racist stereotype at all causes more damage than an explanation can repair, and we apologize. Moving forward, we will be donating a portion of our royalties from this record to the Equal Justice Initiative." I'm not going to show the old cover, obviously, because that would be stupid. But the letter went on. The second is our Meeting of the Waters EP. Brian and Dave recorded samples of the Tatuyo tribe in Brazil playing music for the Viceland program Earthworks, which were later incorporated into Meeting of the Waters. When we released Meeting of the Waters on Record Store Day, we arranged for portions of those sales to go to IDESAM, which, editor's note, seems like a good organization, of course. As we were guests in their world, we feel it is only right to continue to show our gratitude. Moving forward, we will be donating a portion of our royalties from this record to Cultural Survival. So they didn't really realize how much they were doing an appropriation there. Lastly, the band wrote, "Finally, we have to address our LP, Here Comes the Indian. With utmost respect to Indigenous people, we feel that having the word Indian in our record title sends the wrong message by objectifying the American Indian people, which is not what we were intending with the music. Because we have drawn countless inspiration from Indigenous people in America and around the world, moving forward, we will be donating a portion of our royalties from this record to Seeding Sovereignty and changing the title to its original working title, ARC." Now look, that's a lot of racist errors for a band to make. It's true. I don't think it's fair to call the band racist, but they made racist errors out of ignorance, and that's unacceptable. So they acknowledged it and did what they could to rectify it. As far as I'm aware though, no one was calling them out for this. I could be wrong. I don't know exactly how the band realized these errors, but I certainly didn't see people clamoring for Animal Collective to address these issues. And I'm not trying to say, oh, what a big boy, they realized they had done a racism without being told, but just to say that it's relevant to a person's apology, whether it was forced out of them or made on their own volition. And they made amends, in my opinion, in a way that I think is comprehensive, by changing the album art and titles that were fucked up and donating a reasonable amount of money. Does it make it all right? No, of course not. And they acknowledge that. Should they have known better? Yes. But in this world, we have to make amends for our errors, and I was really happy to see my favorite band make amends non-defensively. No person or band should consider themselves outside of the culture and the current moment. Everyone has a responsibility to do their part, raise their own awareness about the impact past and present of their behavior, and attempt to make amends for their wrongdoing. That Bridge to Quiet EP was really great, by the way, and here's the band playing the opening song, Rain in Cups, live and socially distanced in December. You heard that last line, let's get lost in the rain, right? That goes back to the theme of getting lost we were talking about. The theme of escaping for fulfillment, which we were talking about with the song Amanita. Another and a related theme, which we can also see on this EP, is the desire not to think. This is a related theme because what more necessary escape is there than the escape from the always running inner dialogue many of us struggle with? On the title track of Bridge to Quiet, we get this line. And I'll just tell you what the lyrics were because I didn't know them until I looked them up. Written monument so I don't have to think. All of the failures that are on their way. Should I keep driving? What, the whole way home? My body's moving, but the world feels numb. Then a line comes a minute later in the song. I could find so many examples of Animal Collective writing lyrics about escaping your thoughts or escaping your mind. For example, from another song seemingly written on the road, the song On a Highway from the band's amazing 2009 EP Fall Be Kind, which came out right after Merryweather and had a similarly positive response. And that song went, jealous of Noah's dreaming, can't help my brain from sinking. On a side note, that album cover really shows what I meant when I called this band's openness to interpretability like a Rorschach test. I mean, this literally looks like a Rorschach test. And this is kind of fucked up, but to me it's always looked like a child holding a gun upside down. And when I just looked it up, according to multiple corroborated fan reports, it's a statue that Dave, aka A.V. Terror, photographed through a brown paper bag over his camera. It's interesting to see what it looked like to other people. A kid with a horn, a guy swinging an axe, a teddy bear with an axe, an elf with a pipe, and all kinds of other fun stuff. Anyway, Fall Be Kind was received really well, with less focus on songs like On a Highway maybe, and more focus on the fabulous What Would I Want Sky, which had the first legally licensed sample from the Grateful Dead ever used by any band, because Dead drummer Phil Lesh actually liked the outstanding song. Which, by the way, Merryweather Post Pavilion, which the band had released earlier that year, was named after the famous concert venue in Maryland, where Animal Collective is from, and a venue that the Grateful Dead famously played at. So maybe Animal Collective doing a homage to them didn't hurt their licensing chances, but the song also kicks ass. And let's just quickly note that line, I should be floating, but I'm weighted by thinking, since that's, again, what we were talking about. Animal Collective has a history of releasing amazing EPs like this with the extra material before or after they release albums. The outstanding Water Curses EP was right before Merryweather, and this Fall Be Kind one was, as we said, right after Merryweather. And in 2017, after releasing Painting With, they put out the EP The Painters, which was great. Anyway, one thing I skipped over is the band's visual albums. They released the amazing one Oddsac, which premiered in 2010 after the group worked on it for 4 years with a filmmaker named Danny Perez, who had directed some of their music videos. The cool thing about this project was that they didn't make the music first and then decide on what the footage should be, and they didn't do the opposite by shooting the footage first and then scoring it. They worked in tandem back and forth, creating a feedback loop of music and film creation, which I think really speaks to how the group strives to create organically rather than forcing one element to fit with another. Here's a short, copyright-friendly clip from the song Screens from Oddsac, which features some beautifully melodic introspection from Panda Bear. What a line, what a song. I don't know how many other artists can make catchy and beautiful melodies out of the words, "I keep it real with myself and never let obsessions with connections to an outside source be crippling my abilities to breathe and take a step out from the usual places." Like, fuck, that's a fucking damn. The more recent visual album didn't have such memorable lines in my opinion, but it did have beautiful melodies and breathtaking underwater footage. Tangerine Reef came out in 2018 in collaboration with Choral Morphologic to commemorate the 2018 International Year of the Reef, which I hope you were all aware of, okay, that 2018 was the Year of the Reef. Definitely worth a watch, this film. More of a Planet Earth vibe than Oddsac, which was more of a David Lynch vibe. I wanted to make sure to mention the visual albums because the band put a lot of their creative energy into these projects, and they show the emphasis the band puts on collaboration. It's now finally time for that most amazing time of all time, which is when we do a top 5 list. Let's do it. Let's do a top 5 list. Let's pick the top 5 Animal Collective songs of all time, but specifically, let's do top 5 songs not including songs that I've already mentioned, okay? Just to be adding new songs into the conversation. And this for me is like a parent picking their favorite child. It's not easy to do, but it is fun. First up, number 5, which obviously is still an amazing song, since the band has hundreds and hundreds of songs to choose from, obviously, okay. Number 5 is Grass off of Feels, which is extremely upbeat and sort of liberating. And it's got some classic AV screaming too. I love how often Panda Bear would drum standing up. Anyway, Grass is a classic that superfans and non-superfans alike can love, and it's short and sweet and weird and catchy. Number 4 is Pulleys from Centipede Hurts, which is maybe one of the most clear examples of the band making art about the need to escape. This one's got a bit of a stunted groove. It's not the grooviest, I would say, but I find the vocal melody extremely catchy, and frankly, I think it's fucking cool to make a song about pulleys, the unsung heroes of our economy. And connecting pulleys to human relationships seems really cool. Okay, time to get serious. Number 3 is Chores from Strawberry Jam. It's got a catchy beginning, and a slow and drawn out middle, and a classic vamping outro to finish it off, and it's all about getting your work done so you can relax. I used to work a job doing dishes, and I didn't love it, and I would finish each night and longboard home because I was a very cool person, and sometimes I would be singing this song because it would just come into my head because it's all about finishing your work and getting to do the stuff you want to do. I couldn't find an amazing quality version of the song, but who fucking cares? And also, if I wanted to play all the lyrics that resonated for me, I'd get a copyright strike for playing the whole song. But anyways, let's check out this one part. I mean, shit, it's a fucking bumping, positive song about chores. Number 2 in our top 5 list is a lesser known one, Man of Oil from the Meeting of the Waters EP in 2017. I fucking love this melody. It gets stuck in my head all day if I even think of it.
To sweat in the night, strange sensation to feel alive. It's so hard to tell you, I'm afraid to forget the smell of you.
That line, strange sensation to feel alive, feels like it sums up Animal Collective really well, but it's the next 2 lines that resonated with me really deeply. The lines, I find it so hard to tell you, I'm afraid to forget the smell of you. Not to get too much into my own life here, but there was a time when I was first in love and we were on the verge of breaking up, where I remember specifically having this exact thought/feeling, being afraid to forget the smell of someone, and it's really powerful to hear it sung in this way. And finally, number 1, the best song by Animal Collective, both objectively and subjectively, of course, is, drumroll please, Street Flash from the Water Curses EP. This song was the reason I got a delay pedal when I started playing the guitar in high school.
And you're whining, but the couch follows inside. Said, I'm so sorry, I came late this evening, but all the clouds surround town died.
It's simple, it's extremely catchy, and it's psychedelic as fuck, with lines like, I'm sorry I came in late this evening, but all the clocks around the town had died. And it's literally just a song about taking a walk. Classic Animal Collective with their head in the clouds and their feet underground. Which brings me to the one bonus song of our top 5, a little treat for watching this long into the video. I mean, we did this in the All Gas No Brakes video, right? We had a little bonus thing after the top 5. So here's the song Cobwebs off of the same Water Curses EP, which is all about going underground. Amazing stuff. Absolutely beautiful, catchy, weird, sticky, delicious, and fresh. Thank you so much for watching this video, and thank you to Animal Collective for the years of hard work making beautiful art. Keeping 3 or 4 people working together on a singular creative vision is a very complicated and messy thing to keep going for years, and it requires a lot of maturity, which sometimes isn't an artist's strong suit, or a human being's strong suit, to be honest. I'm so glad Animal Collective is still around and still working on new music, apparently, probably likely to release an album this year. They've grown and changed a lot, and I know they aren't everybody's cup of tea, but for people like me, this band was a godsend that helped me blend my weird sides with my boring sides and, blend my self-exploration with my self-doubt and just kind of blend my desire to escape with my desire to return and be grounded and connected. One last point I wanted to make is that I feel like there's a sort of meta level to art like this that's about finding fulfillment through healthy forms of escape, because the meta level is the fact that these songs themselves are forms of escape. So when you're listening to a song about finding fulfillment through escape, and you are yourself finding fulfillment through escaping into that song, it just kind of struck me while making this video that there's a kind of inherent fulfillment to this. And maybe it wouldn't necessarily click like that for everybody, probably, because this kind of music isn't everybody's desired form of escape, and because not everyone maybe feels the need for escape to the same degree. But many of us do, and Animal Collective helps. Thanks for watching, and feel free to check out the other videos, like these ones that are also about things I love. If you're bored of positive stuff, you can watch these videos about things I most certainly don't love. You can support the channel by sharing videos with your friends, enemies, and any online communities you might be a part of. And finally, I have the honor of thanking a patron for supporting this channel on Patreon also, which is a really great milestone for the channel. Thank you to, put my name in the credit, Winky Face, for your generous anonymous support. And anyone who wants to pluralize the patron and make it so I thank patrons in the future, go ahead and give me your money on Patreon if you want to, and if you have money to give away like this. I'll be continuing to talk about all kinds of different stuff on this channel, so feel free to subscribe and stay tuned. And buy Animal Collective's music and merch directly from their website, myanimalhome.net. .net. What a bunch of weirdos. You gotta love them. Okay, bye.